Ralf, thank you for the interview. I know you have been working in esports for such a long time. So, but some people are talking about esports winner now. Like, what's your evaluation of the development of esports right now?
Look, I think if you look back the last 25 years almost, right? It really started as a niche, as something very new, very exciting, very pioneering. That's late 90 years. And then I think between 2000 and 2010, approximately, it was something where there was big fandom, where gaming started to become culture and pop culture. But esports was still not a business, right? It was a hobby, really. Why? Because there was a few things missing that came in around 2010. I mean, number one, the business model for games was mostly boxed and really free to play. Changed it because then the games had a clear incentive to build long-term communities versus before, right? When esports started a few weeks after a game was released, actually the publisher lost interest, while the esports industry really started to do this, right, with StarCraft and Warcraft and the early ones. So 2010 was a big change, and specifically in the West, YouTube and Twitch came along, right? So that basically gave it the platform to watch at scale. And same as for social media, which then became into the world and became its own press home, so to speak, right? So it wasn't depending on traditional media anymore, but it had its own place to talk about it. So all of these things together, at least in the Western world, I would argue Korea was earlier, right? But really created a breakthrough and made it so popular that it became pop culture, that kids stopped talking about that they play video games and like esports because it was so natural, like drinking water. So you didn't even need to mention it. And the esports industry started to fill stadiums, right? Back in the days, I did my first stadium event in 2013, and we were so proud. It was really the moment when the press and the public stopped asking if this is a sport, because they could see and feel it, and started asking, will this be Olympic? Fast forward, now I'd say 2023, 2024, right? Esports has come so far. It's a cultural phenomenon all over the world. It's there, it's never gonna go away. And even though with the economic downturn, it slowed down a little bit, but the general data, the general trajectory is still there. And now is the time that the Esports World Cup is here, right, and was announced last year. And I think we hope that we can really add to the industry, and let's almost call it reignite the growth. So we really looked at what we can add to the industry, how we can help, not how we can do something that's already there, and help the industry to just go along and leapfrog a little bit in the future, which I always was very excited about. Now I'm a little bit more excited.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit more about how will EWC further help esports grow? And what's the mission of EWC?
Absolutely. I mean, first and foremost, EWC is run by a foundation. So it's a non-profit. So our sole mission, other than companies who need to make money, right? We just need to make it larger as a sport. And to do this, right, we want to add something. We want to make it more inclusive in a way that we looked at it and said, we want all the best games. We want to bring them together. So right now there's a lot of fantastic esports tournaments. Love them. Worlds, HOK League in China, Call of Duty, Intel Extreme Masters. There is exciting stuff out there. But what they can't do, because of the mission they have and the focus, is what they do is they bring one, maybe two communities together. With the Esports World Cup, we can bring all 3.4 billion gamers together. We're not going to do this in year one, don't get me wrong. I don't want to oversell this, but we have that unique opportunity to really unite all of these different communities from a game perspective. Same goes for geographical position. So because Saudi's in the middle, right, between left, east and west, we really have the opportunity to bring all of these worlds together a little bit and unite the community as one gaming community, right, rather than separated one due to countries or whatever it is. And ultimately building that stage, which potentially interests 3.4 billion people, working very closely with the clubs who are the day-to-day home of the players, which are, the ultimate customer, the ultimate person we talk about and like about. We really want to help them, including building these stages, for the players to become global stars. Because that is really the end goal. Every sport that has global stars, every sport that creates global recognition and is humanized through their best players strives, and I think that is the ultimate goal for esports and the place where we want to help and will be able to help most.
So the Boulevard City looks amazing with all the EWC flags and screens. In order to build such a huge event, what preparations have EWC made?
Yeah, look, it's gigantic, right? I mean, there's not hundreds of people working here, there are thousands. And aside from working with some of the best people in the industry to both build the esports tournaments, halls, arenas, stages, which you're hopefully going to like, we try to build one of the biggest festivals around games and esports. So there is not only the direct esports entertainment, but gaming as an overall cultural place to be. But last but not least, what you can see, and hopefully you've seen when you arrive, we have the support of the whole government and Saudi population, right? So that starts with there's EWC branded tickets. The airport has EWC takeovers. If you look at your mobile phone provider will run on an EWC network. There's a specific esports visa for the Esports World Cup, which makes it easier for you to come to the country. So I think, except for normal manpower, latest technology, fantastic entertainment, it's really the support of the whole country on things that you just can't get without this strong government support.
Okay, and the EWC club program has gained a lot of attention. How do you think this project will help Ox grow? And then what do you want to achieve through this project?
So, I mean, first and foremost, I'm aware that there have been some criticism in China, right? So, it's been rightfully so, right? This is version 1. Everything we do, we are not last minute, but we're planning to improve. So I think the first message is, this is just the first year. Let's talk about if it's great or not in a few years. Although we want to be measured, hopefully in 7 weeks when this is done too. The idea of the club program is very clearly going back to what I said earlier. We thought about what can we add to the ecosystem, where there's places that need support, that need growth, and that will accelerate the growth of the industry. And the clubs are such an important pillar. I used to be a club owner 20 years ago, right? So I've no first place, but they bring so much stability and anchor and signaling to the industry that we said we want to go out and support these clubs. We want to help them to be more stable. We want to help them to continue to grow. So we did 3 things. Number 1, we actually built the product around the clubs, right? Because the winner of the Esports World Cup is the champion, the club champion, right? It's the one who wins most points across all of the different games we have, assuming he wins at least one of it. That's a caveat. But the $20 million we put in as prizes for clubs only, right, is a first of its kind. It's enormously big, and the $7 million first prize will be life-changing for that club who wins it, right? It really makes a difference. So that's point number 1. To enable the clubs to participate there, we wanted to do an acceleration program where we picked a selected amount for help them to get more squads. This is a temporary program, Right? This is a year one program. We haven't fully decided, but it's not intended to be there forever, because we believe that the prize money, the third pillar, which we're going to come to, are going to support this. I think the third piece we did is to say, hey, you guys know the community best. You are closest to it. Help us promote esports and the Esports World Cup. So the third part is a marketing program, and it's very clearly labeled. Help us get people here. Help us get the world to know about this. And as I said, right, these three pillars are intended to help the clubs both in stability, in growing, and in making a difference in terms of when you actually win the Esports World Cup. We'll definitely continue this program. We'll redo this a little bit for year two. And I think the two things we were thinking about, right, can't confirm yet, but is number one, actually to double down on the marketing aspect and to open it for more clubs, because specifically geographically, right, we're looking at the whole world as our market. We're not an American tournament organizer. We're not an European one, right? We really want to be that glue between the East and the West, as I said earlier. So we need to make sure that all the different major esports markets, and specifically China, are included a lot. And so I can definitely promise you that we'll optimize for that for the next edition.
Okay. Are you going to expand the program in next year?
Absolutely, yes. We're definitely going to expand the program, and we're definitely are working on adding more Chinese teams to it.
Okay, like for like the potential Chinese hooks to be selected in this program, what do you think the most important criteria for them?
I think we look always at three, maybe four things. Mm-hmm. I mean, number one is stability and scale, right? You are relevant in this industry. You're day to day adding value to the community. Number two, that you have some sort of history, right? So we don't want to go in and change the landscape. We want to support the landscape. So that. Number three, that obviously more than one game, right? Because the core of the Esports World Cup is the multi-game aspect. And I think last but not least is that you look somewhere in the future and want to be part of the future and want to grow this industry altogether, because again, to connect to what I said earlier, this is really about uniting the different games, uniting the different geographies and bringing everyone together. And we obviously want to partner with the clubs who see this themselves and ultimately put their players at the center, because we want to find that next Michael Jordan of esports, or whatever you call it.
Okay, so from gamers to gamers A to EWC, we are seeing more and more mobile esports titles. Yes. What is your view on the growth of mobile esports globally?
Yeah, there's no doubt that mobile esports, I would argue, has two of the three most popular esports in the world, right? So the numbers speak to themselves. I don't think in platforms about this, right? So for me, if it's mobile or PC or console, it's really a secondary or tertiary thinking. It's not in the front. For me, what I think about in the front is how much fun is it to play, how much people play it, and how much people watch it. Where it's played is not so important, to be honest. And even if I look at myself, right, I play two games fairly competitively, and many not, but two games. And that's Clash Royale, which is a mobile game, and that's Dota, which is a PC game. So again, for me, mobile is a natural part of the esports industry, a natural part of the esports world, and something I wouldn't even mention, just because it's so normal.
Okay. So how has your experience changed from working with like traditional Western esports titles to working more and more with Eastern esports titles?
That's a good question. I think, let's talk about what's similar first, because both publishers, both game developers, I think the best discussions I have with, if we talk about the players, if we talk about what is fun, what is, what brings them along, how does do this. I think the message I always bring to all of these partners is more content is better than less content. I think there's still a little bit of an overall misperception in esports that people prioritize structure over opportunity. And what do I mean by that is, if you look at any traditional sports, look at football, which is still the largest viewership sport. People since 20 years say, oh, this is too much content this year. This year, football is going to decline because there's so many leagues and so many tournaments and people will lose interest. The honest answer, it's not. It has only grown. And I think if I look at esports overall, what we talk always about is let's offer more opportunities for the players. Because every single opportunity for a player will create more incentives, more opportunity for them to make a living out of it, to make it their job, to make it their primary objective. And I think that's good. So I think that's a similar stuff. And I think that's a similar discussion everywhere. And I think what's similar as well is that all publishers are excited about this. And at the same time, no one has figured this out. No one knows the answer because it's still a young industry. I think there's actually more similarity than differences. Differences are actually less East versus West. Okay. They are more that one versus that one versus that one. So there's different philosophies. But I don't think there's a cultural core to this, like a geographical core to this.
So can you talk a little bit more about the importance of third-party tournament?
Yeah, look, I think from my side, this is super simple. I mean, the publisher is, by default, the global federation of the sport. So he owns their sport 100%. Yeah. So after all, it's their decision, and you need to respect this. I think where we always find common discussions and sense with every publisher is we want the benefit for the player. What is best to the player? That's the starting point. And a little bit like I mentioned before, if you think this through, if you spend enough time, what is the most important thing for a player? It's the amount and the scale of the opportunity. It's actually that simple. What can you aspire to maximum, and how many times you have the chance to achieve that aspiration? Life is simple there. And therefore, I don't think that any individual entity can create all opportunities that a player needs. It's just too much infrastructure, it's just too much work. It's just too complicated because it's all over the world. So I always thought and always feel that a healthy combination between what the publisher sees as their core esports ecosystem and what third parties can bring to the table with the right quality and the right investment, that there's a natural overlap and a natural collaboration. And I think the Esports World Cup is a testament to that, with the 21 literally best games in the world, the publishers trusting us to take their games and adding an opportunity for their player and teams. And that is, for me, a logical result, if that makes sense. We're super thankful for that, and we want to make sure that we create that right experience for the players. But it's very logical for me at the same time, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. So, is it possible to host Esports World Cup in different countries in the future?
Yeah. Look, it's very clearly that a short-term plan is to have it in Riyadh because we have this tremendous government support. But there's absolutely a world, which we've talked about internally and thought about it, where, this has satellites somewhere else and we really expand it. But I would not rule out that it can leave the kingdom as well and rotate a little bit. That's a little bit up to the board and to all people involved, and we don't have a plan to do it, don't get me wrong either. But it's absolutely a thought process.
Okay, so last question. Do you have any special plan for the Chinese market?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, China is the largest esports market in the world, right? So, and there's a natural language barrier, to be honest, right? So it's harder. It's not easy. It's not easy for a Saudi or a European or so to do this. But we're super grateful to have tremendous support from both Tencent and VSPO in this, right? We work very closely with them. And we have big plans for the future to extend that collaboration, be it on the club level, as we discussed, be it on a game level, which we already started, but as well thinking about how we can have more broadcast, more marketing, and more on-site qualification in China. These are big strategic thoughts for us and super important.